Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucy and I share videos on the topic of long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome and mind-body approaches that can help with those conditions and other mind-body conditions. So today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about what's changed for me since this time last year in terms of my physical health, in terms of my mindset, and where I was before I came across the mind-body approach this time last year, and a little bit about the initial key things that really helped me at the start of that process. So this time last year, I came across the book, The Mindbody Prescription by Dr. Sarno, which really helped me apply a mind-body approach to my recovery. Before that, I'd been doing meditation, I'd been doing breathing exercises, I'd been thinking about my mindset and how I was thinking, but I didn't fully understand where symptoms were coming from and how my beliefs and my fear were generating symptoms, as well as understanding that some of my symptoms were caused by repressed emotions. So this time last year, I actually went to see my friend compete in the Dublin City Marathon, and I was thinking about this recently and I was thinking, no, it couldn't have been last year. It must have been the year before, because I felt really unwell that day and I was fearful about walking 10 minutes from the car to the street where she was going to be running and walking 10 minutes back. But actually it was only a year ago. So it made me realize how much has changed in 1 year. So I thought it would be nice to think back about the progress that I've made over that time and what's changed. So I suppose to give you an overview to begin with of the progress that I've made during that time. This time last year, for that particular day, I got a lift to near where the run was going on, which wasn't very far from where I live. I walked 10 minutes and stood there at the side of the road for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I actually didn't see my friend run past because there were so many other people running and I didn't spot her, but I happened to see someone else I knew, and it was nice to get involved in the atmosphere and see everyone running. And then I walked back to the car, and for me, I think I may have been having a particularly bad day at the time in terms of symptoms, but for me that was a big outing, and that was something I definitely would not have been doing the year before. And the following day I went to meet my friend for a coffee, and I met her for about an hour or two, and again that was also something that was a big outing for me, something I wouldn't have been able to do the year before when I was physically much worse and more unwell. But looking back on that now, I can see actually how I was quite limited in what I could do, and I was also feeling somewhat fearful about those situations. It was around that time that I found the mind-body approach. So in terms of this time last year, I wouldn't have been walking for more than 15 minutes at a time. I was able to walk around the house, but I was still resting a lot during the day. I needed to lie down at least 3 times a day. I was limited in how long I could socialize for, how long I could do a cognitive activity for. I also was fearful about how much I could do, how it would impact me, whether or not I would exacerbate symptoms. Whereas a year later, this week, I did an upper body workout on Sunday. On Monday, I went for a run with the triathlon club I'm in. On Tuesday, I went to swimming training with the triathlon club. Yesterday, I was too busy to do any exercise. And today, I will probably go for a run. I might even try and fit in a swim as well, because I'm going away this weekend. Physically, I am completely better. Even before I got long COVID or chronic fatigue syndrome, I wasn't able to run because of foot pain and what I thought were foot and ankle injuries. But actually now I understand those injuries were neuroplastic pain that was a mind-body issue rather than a physical injury. So I'm also able to work again, so I don't need to rest during the day. I'm able to do basically whatever I want. During the summer, there's been a few times where I've driven about an hour and a half away to do a long hike and then driven home afterwards without any fear or concern about how I would feel afterwards. And even this week, for example, on Monday night, I didn't sleep well. So I was a little bit apprehensive about my swim because I was thinking, I really don't feel great, I'm really tired. But I knew I would physically be okay. And the first 15 minutes, I was feeling a little bit tired and not quite at my best. But then after that, I felt fine and my swim was good. Even thinking about my mindset from this time last year to now, also there's a huge shift where I don't fear any physical activity. For the most part, I don't fear that I'm going to get physically really unwell again. Certainly not with a mind-body condition. And I know that if I do get symptoms, that if they are mind-body symptoms, even if the tools I use right now don't help me with those, there are lots of different resources, lots of different people I can go to for help with that. And I can try something different. And I'm confident that I will be fine. And that in the future, if I get unwell, it will be because of a virus, a bacterial infection, or some other physical illness that is not a mind-body illness. Very different to this time last year, just before I came across the mind-body approach, because of the uncertainty around symptoms, not understanding where symptoms came from, not understanding if there was something physically wrong, not understanding if there was something really wrong with my nervous system. I didn't feel comfortable trying things, and if I did try an activity and I got symptoms afterwards, I would have thought like I've done too much. I don't know how long this will last. Maybe I'll get worse. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. Whereas once I came across the mind-body approach and started applying some of the tools related to that approach, I was able to reassure myself that even if I got symptoms after doing some activity, that I was physically okay, that I was safe, that I didn't need to be concerned about the symptoms. I also focused a lot at the beginning when I came across the mind-body approach on figuring out if there were any emotions present when my symptoms were there. So if my symptoms were consistent, I would check in consistently. If my symptoms got worse, I would check in to see if there were any emotions or feelings that maybe I just needed to become aware of and allow those feelings to be there or have some space sitting with that feeling. I would also do that before activity and after activity. Another thing I really focused on was reassuring myself that I was safe even when symptoms came up. So if symptoms got worse, especially after doing activity, I would make sure I had enough time to reassure myself that actually I was okay, the symptoms weren't harmful, that this was a mind-body condition. When I read Dr. John Sarno's book, I really identified with the person he described in the book as someone who was likely to get a mind-body syndrome in terms of their personality characteristics and in terms of their medical history. And I'd also had lots of medical tests done and nothing had come back, so I could trust that I was physically okay. It's harder for some other people to trust that if they haven't had those medical tests done, or if they haven't yet fully understood the approach, where symptoms come from, or how it applies to them. Because it's one thing understanding the mind-body approach intellectually compared to applying the approach to yourself experientially and being able to identify experiences that you've had in which you may have had symptoms which were related to an emotion or related to beliefs or expectations. And if you've been for a very long time linking activity with symptoms or linking other triggers like food with symptoms, it takes a bit of work to find new associations and look at the inconsistencies in those connections, because with a mind-body condition, activity does not cause symptoms. It might be an emotion that causes symptoms. It might be some of the stress related to doing that activity if your nervous system is already heightened, and it might be to do with potentially feeling unsafe, the thoughts or beliefs someone has around doing those activities. Another thing I can compare in terms of this year and last year would be how I eat. So last year, actually, ironically, when I was really unwell, I was eating really healthily and I was really strict with what I ate. I didn't eat any sugar, I didn't eat any dairy, any gluten. I actually hadn't eaten dairy or gluten for many years before I got long COVID, but I was trying to eat as healthily as possible, and I would be a little bit anxious if I were to drink some alcohol or if I was to eat something really high in sugar. Whereas once I came across this approach and realized that actually if my body was healthy, there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to eat dairy, gluten, sugar, given that I don't have a serious anaphylactic allergy or celiac disease, then there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to eat those foods. So during my recovery, I was having plenty of treats and indulging because it was such a relief to be able to eat whatever I wanted to eat again. Since then, I have been a little bit stricter on myself, put some limitations in place so that I'm not eating sugar all of the time, and so that I have a general healthy diet, because I enjoy sport, I want to feel good every day, so I'm eating healthily, but I definitely treat myself as well. I don't get concerned that that's going to cause symptoms or that that's going to be detrimental in any way. When I came across the mind-body approach this time last year, for some time afterwards, I still had a lot of fear that I needed to manage. I still had doubt that I needed to manage, and I had symptoms every day for months. So I did have to work quite hard at using the approach, instilling the approach in my mind, listening to podcasts, reading books, doing everything that I could to get to a place where I didn't have symptoms. But I wasn't consciously thinking, I need to get rid of these symptoms. Over time, they just slowly reduced and went away as I began to live my life again. And now and again, I do get symptoms now. I might feel a bit tired, and sometimes I'll think, is that tiredness more than usual? Is it more than normal? And I might notice a hint of fear coming up, but it won't go as far as me becoming really concerned about it or not doing what I would normally do in a day because of that feeling. So there are various things that are much easier for me to implement now. A couple of challenges that have arisen have been new symptoms like shin splints. So shin splints, I believe, can be a mind-body pain, but also if you haven't run for years and you're running again and you're increasing the load and intensity quickly, then that's something you need to think about. And also I've gone to a physio and got lots of physio exercises so that I can strengthen my legs appropriately for running again. Another thing that I've had to manage and I'm still working on is not checking in with myself or not paying attention to emotions because I become really busy. And that's a nice way to be. It's really nice to be able to be busy and do everything I want to do. But I'm aware that one of the reasons I became unwell in the first place was because I was ignoring emotions and internal cues and not paying attention to myself in the way that is helpful for me. So that's something that actually has been more challenging to do since my symptoms have reduced, because my symptoms aren't necessarily a cue to check in with myself. but that's something I do work on. And so it's even really amazing for me to look back and think it was only a year ago and so much has changed in 1 year, and that change is possible for other people too. So if you found this video in some way helpful or useful, please like and subscribe. If you're interested in joining the Facebook group or following me on Instagram, there's links in the description below. For anyone who's interested in applying a mind-body approach to themselves and learning how they can apply this approach to their own recovery, I offer coaching, and the link to my website and a link to booking a call with me is in the description. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.